Guys, are you able to hear me?
Yes, fine.
Okay,
Good
great.
morning.
Morning. All right. So we had some problem with the server. Are you guys able to access the server right now? All right. So last session we've seen how to load data into a cube. Were you guys clear about it? Yeah. All right. Okay. So just to confirm, were you able to go ahead and relate to what we've seen in the theory part about star schema or extended star schema, and were you able to relate to what we did in loading the cube, how we created the dimensions and attached the SIDs? So were you able to go ahead and check that? All right. Uh, Today we'll try to go and understand about another object within the BW system. It's called the DSO, or the data store object. We'll see how we could go ahead and create that. All right. So once we go into the, now there is a little difference between the info cube and the DSO. All right. So let me first tell you what a DSO is. A DSO stands for data store object. Basically, this object you could, if you see, this object is basically a two-dimensional structure. It's more like a table that you store data into. Alright, and because of that you store all your detailed data in the DSO. If you're looking at the layered form of how the approach is, first your data comes into the SAP system. From there you will load data into the DSO. From the DSO data you will load the data into the cube. From the cube onto the multi-provider, and then from there it will look at the report. Alright, so the DSO is like the staging area for data before it is actually summarized at the info cube. Alright, but based on the different types of DSOs, different kinds of uh, ways you could go ahead and use. You have basically three different kinds of DSOs, data store objects. The first one is the standard DSO, where we would go and use the DSO as a standard one. I'll tell you what exactly are the standard in the DSO. The second one is the write optimized DSO, and the third one is direct update DSO. So the three DSOs, three types of DSOs. Uh, let me tell you about the standard DSO. So in the info cube, you've seen what basically the characteristics are, what are the key figures, what are the dimensions and all that, right? So here you don't have so much jargon of dimensions and all that. Basically, when you create a DSO, the major difference that you would find is it'll ask you what is the key fields, okay, and what are the data fields. So you just need to know that part of it. Key fields are nothing but the ones which make up the primary key of the object, and the non-primary keys are nothing but your data fields. So don't assume that the primary key should be all characteristics and the data field should be all key figures or measures, nothing like that. So the primary key is the only one through which you'll identify a single row within the DSO, and the key fields are the ones through which the data fields are the ones which are not the main key fields, but all the fields other than that could be characteristics or could be key figures. Alright, so all of them fall together in the data fields folder itself. So you have a few settings that you will have to do when you're creating a DSO. So you will have to first mention what kind of DSO it is. When do you want to actually have your SIDs being created? Is it the time of activation, or is it the time of the reporting, where you link with the master data and then it will show up? Or do you don't want the SID values at all? You also have, whenever you're loading data, during the process of loading, the system shows that to be yellow, but once it completes, it will go ahead and change that to green. So that process, in some it is automatically done, in some you'll have to mention it. So if you mention the alright, anyways, so whenever you're looking at the settings part of it, you will have to go ahead and mention that when you're dealing with the DSOs. So I'll go ahead and create a DSO and I'll explain to you the different settings that you have. The best thing is to right click on your info area and say create a data store object. When you click on create data store object, it gives a name. Creating a standard DSO. Alright. So whenever you're creating a standard DSO, when I click on continue, you have this page come up. So this is where your settings tab is, and so the type of data store, if you double click on it, you will have, or you can just click on this. You'd have basically three different types: standard DSO, the direct update DSO, and the write optimized DSO. You could choose from any. Each one is for a different purpose. So you can go ahead and click on continue if you're directly using the standard. And second option you have is SID during activation. So once we finish loading the data into the DSO, you will have to specifically tell that you want to do activation and you want the SIDs to be created during that process. Alright, activation is the process during which your SID links are created. If you're not able to record, you could log off and log in once more and see if you want, if you're able to do that, because organizer access is given to you anyways. Alright, so you could choose when your SID should be created at the activation process or during reporting, or you don't want to create SIDs at all. So you have three options. So we want to do it at the process of activation. Below that you have a few settings. If you observe, you have something called as unique data, then you have something called as set quality status to OK automatically. So once we finish loading, if you select that, automatically what happens is it will go and change the traffic light from yellow to green automatically. Alright. Then you have activate data automatically. So once we finish that process, so loading data is one process, activation of the data is another process within the BW system. Alright. So right, you could take that recording from Ravi if you are not able to record. So here if you observe, you also have another tab called update data automatically, which means that in case you are trying to load this data from the queue after this process, the moment the data is loaded to the DSO automatically, data will be updated into the info cube as well. So right, so you have the key fields and the data fields. Key fields are nothing but your primary keys that you are able to identify a single row in your DSO. And you also have data fields. So let's say we'd go ahead and create a DSO.
There are 6 other callers on the call.
So you have two primary keys, customer number and material number. Alright, so here you have. Alright, so you have price, quantity and revenue as your data fields. So the first part is your primary keys, which are your key fields. The second part is your data fields. So we mentioned also that the quality status is set to OK automatically once we load, and then uh, data should be activated automatically. So if I go and activate this or check this, it says consistent. So it's successfully created. Now in the background, the schema that the DSO uses, you basically have three tables that get created. Alright, so you have alright, the first table is called new data table, the second one is called change log. Alright, so there are three tables. One is the new data table, change log, and then the active data table. So whenever you're loading data into the DSO, the first thing it will load is into the new data table. From there, uh, once your activation process kicks in, or you start your activation process manually, then data from the new data table will move into the active data table through the change log table and gets populated in the uh, active data table. So alright, so the new data table, the change log table, and the active data table. So data first gets loaded into the new data table. Once we click on the process of activation, that is when your change log and your active data table come into picture. Alright. Uh, so let's go and first check on what are these tables are. So we've created this, and then you have this in the RSA1. The name of the DSO is DSO underscore ST1. Right, so you have the standard DSO, ZDSO underscore ST1. So if you right click on it and go into manage, alright. So for us to go ahead, so here you have the new data table, the active data table, and the change log table. Alright, so we have not loaded any data into this, so we'll have to first define the structure of the DSO. At the PSA is nothing but the data store, data source. Alright, so let's say we call this as okay, and we're dealing with transaction data. So I can go and click on continue. So it's asking you to go ahead and put in the short text. Right, so here, like the one that we did last time when we loaded data, they're into the info cube or into the uh, info objects. This is the standard step. So you come here, define the data source, tell where that file is. Uh, okay, this is called IC underscore transaction. So you can go and select that data. has pretty much the same structure. And then this is not the fixed length, we want to use the CSV format. So here you have proposal and fields. So in the fields I'll go and define the structure. So I have to mention so once you do that, go ahead and check for consistency. Alright. So this is activated. You want to look at the preview, you can go and read preview data. So this is how your data is visible. But for us to send the data from the external file to the data source, you'll have to first load it through the info package. From there to your data target, first you'll have to make them connected through the transformation. So you'd go ahead and click on the transformations, and once your transformations, from your data source through the transformation, data goes into the data target, and then we can go ahead and move the data through activation. So now that I have my data source, this is my data source, I need to link my info provider, which is my DSO. Alright, so the system automatically sets up the transformation. So in case you want to go and write any rules here, you could go and double click on the is equal to, and then you will be able to write the rules. Okay, so now if you go and look out for the data flow, so you'd have the source from a source system, which is the flat file system. The second one, you'd get it from your data source, which is nothing but your structure for data to be accessed at the PSA level. The next is your transformation, and then your alright. Alright, so the bottom you'd find that you have the data source, and then you also have the DTP option. The data source, through the data source you will be able to go ahead and you'd be linking it with the DSO, and through the transformation you'd be linking it. So once you've created the transformation, the next step is to go ahead and load the data. Just one sec. Creating the info package. So by default it takes in all of these from the data source. Your processing is to the PSA. Okay, I'm clicking on the start process for the info package. It says data was requested. Yeah, 20 records that is pulled. So if you look at the data that is loaded, if you go into your data store object right now and say manage, alright, data is still not moved to the data target. Your data is there at the PSA level itself. So that to move to the data target, you need to load it only through the DTP, and we'll have to activate this DTP before it is created. So I'll change this to full. Once your DTP is created, for us to use the execute tab, we need to activate it. Alright, so the first time I'm trying to load this, observe, click on execute. Alright, so if you see this here, by default, the system does not go and show that the request gets activated. The request number is given there, but your data is not active and it is not ready for reporting. At this point, you can go into contents and look at the new data that is moved in. Right, this is the new data that you have in your new data table. But if you look at it, like I said, you will have in the first you will have data only in the new data table. So if you go into the change log or active data and say number of entries, pretty much it is 0. You don't have anything loaded into the change log. So the next thing that you do is go into your requests. Alright, so I am activating the process. I click on the start button, select this particular request. This process is called as activation. So when you activate your data moves from the new data table to change log and then to the main active data table. So now if you go and check on, if I refresh this, you'd find that there is a request number and also there is ready for reporting. So if you go into the contents tab though, so if you look at the new data table right now and say number of entries, so now new data table has become empty. Once data moves out of the new data table into the active data table or the change log table, the data in the new data table will be deleted. Alright, so remember that. Yeah, you can report directly queries on the DSO as well. I'm clicking on the new data table that is pretty much empty. Then let's go to the change log table. So your detail alright, so here you have the zero record mode, which will go ahead and keep a track of your uh, images, the before image and the after image. So whenever you come with the value n, it means it's pretty much completely new data. So that's why you have that. You have a question there from Rajiv saying, why should we have a DSO when we can load data from the PSA? The working happens this way. You have your PSA as your staging area. From there, data is loaded to the DSO. The PSA data is deleted from time to time so that you are not redundantly loading data and your space is not consumed. And also, the DSO will hold the detailed data and will keep it. The requests are available for you to go ahead and selectively load data or selectively delete data. And the PSA is something that is cleaned from time to time, so you don't load data directly to the PSA, but instead you would load it to the DSO, which is the first layer of how data load will happen. And from there, once data is loaded to the DSO, from there you load data to the cube. The data store object has the property of overwrite. Okay, so if you extend the same data again, so what it will do is it will overwrite the old one with this data. Okay, so from here, the change log table, data will go to your active data table. This will be the final table that you will be actually looking on. So your record mode has after image, that's why it's blank. Alright, so this is what happens when you load data to a DSO. Alright, so let's do one thing. What we will do is just to find out what happens when you change something on the file. How does the system represent that through your DSO? How does it overwrite and all that? We'll try to go and take a look. So Rajiv, so what exactly do you mean? Can we change data? Is that applying transformations, or do you want to go ahead and change the data as it is?
Yeah, Emmanuel, my question was that see the cube as well as the the DSOs will I mean in the PSAs we usually put in both master data as well as fact data. Master data representing, for example, the customer master or the material master, which I can suppose that there are changes in the customer master's say address or telephone number. I can keep on updating or changing the data in my PSA, as well as I understand that we can do it in the DSO. My question is that the fact data, which is the transaction data, would represent to my mind, I think, sales orders or purchase orders, which are transaction data. So can I change data there also, or what is the thing? Just wanted some clarity.
Can you change data there also, meaning I still didn't get it. You want to change data inside the DSO, or you want to change?
Can we change transaction? Can we change transaction data in the DSO?
For that, you'll have to apply
Can we
the
change? Can we change sales order data in the DS?
when you say change, you want to do it manually, you want to change it through the transformation rules.
Both.
Through the transformation rules, anyways you can. You will not be having the access to go and change data on the DSO if you're on production systems. On any of these objects, whether the DSO or the cube or anything, you will not be able to go and change the data in that. Alright, so in case you want to change something, you can change it at the PSA level. And then load it to the DSO and from there to the cube.
Yeah, but so in production you can't change the data there in the DSO. So if at all I have to change, okay, then what is the recourse? Suppose I entered a wrong sales order. Can I make the necessary changes?
You send in another. You can change it in the PSA, sure, you can.
Okay. So in the DSO I cannot touch it, and in the InfoCube certainly I cannot touch it also. Is that right?
Yeah, that is true.
Okay, thanks.
So we've loaded this data from IC underscore trans, I think, right? That is a flat file that we had. This is the data we loaded. So let's say I want to go and make some changes on the data here. So instead of loading data into M00, C008 and M008, I have 44,000 here. I want to go ahead and change it to 8,000. This to 80,000. Okay, I'll go and save this.
So Emmanuel, in the production system, I can change in the PSA, right? Even if it's in the production system. Okay.
Right. I think it's loaded the request multiple times. Anyway, it's okay since it's an override. Just clicking on the active. Right, this is empty. If you go to your change log table, say execute. So if you see a change log table, we have made some changes on C008 and M008. This was the first time when we loaded. You have 4,40,000, and this was the new record that was there. And when you change that, so what happens is the system creates a negative record, which is the before image, and then it'll try to negate that. So you have C008 and CM008. You get a negative of whatever you had here, uh, value 800 and this. So all of it, you will have it in the negative, and then that is balanced. And then you have the latest record that is added. So you would also have the after image, and you also have the before image. So when data is loaded into the DSO, it will go and uh, get whatever is the change log keeps a track of the records, right? So in the change log you have before images and after images and deletion and new and old records, so it will keep a track of how the record is changing, and you will have the first time when it is recorded with the symbol N, which is new, and from then on how data is loaded and what are the changes that have happened. And your active data table is what we will be reporting on. So that is where the actual change will be. From the change log, whatever is the data that is negated, that will be taken off. Whatever is the data that is left, that will be updated into your active data table. So if you go into the active data table, so you'll not even find that row that was there previously. You'll only find the new row, which is 80,800 and 80,000. So that's what you will go ahead and find in your uh, active data table. You will not find any mention of old data in your active data table. Alright. So this is how you would load data to the DSO. Any questions on this? And in case you want to load data from the DSO to the InfoCube, all that you need to do is create transformations over from the DSO to the InfoCube. You just need to go ahead and create a transformation. So whichever is the source on which you go ahead and right click, the source will be added. So you have to mention the target where you want to load the data. So let's say your DSO name is ZDSO underscore ST1, and this is my data target, and I want to load data into, let's say, in this particular cube. So I right click on this, say create transformation. I'd mention what is my so it automatically create the transformation, and from there you can load data into the InfoCube. For this also you'll have to go ahead and create DTP. my DTP is getting data not just from thing, you're getting it from the DSO. Alright, so if you see this request has come from the DSO and not from the flat file. So you can even load data from the DSO to the info cube. All that you need to do is create a transformation. You also have another option where you can say directly update the data from the DSO to the cube. As part of the setting, you can mention that as well. So whenever you load data into the DSO, automatically that is updated into the cube as well. So that's how you can go ahead and do that. Any questions on this? Your standard DSO?
Can you show again where you change this, because relationship, because the cube is still showing the flat file. I think you changed something on the data BTP.
Yeah, here is what it is, right? It's okay. What I've changed on how to load the DTP, is it?
How did you create the DTP? When you create the DTP, I think you changed something on the top.
Create DTP. Okay, so mention what is the from where you want to load from, let's say DSO to the cube.
There is just a name, or you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just give your data store object name and then create it. Your source target of DTP, source of DTP. So you have to mention both of them. So it could be a data store, it could be an info object, or it could be anything. So whatever is your source, go ahead and mention that and map it at your transformation, whatever data is supposed to be loaded. Alright. Did you guys start off with the HANA sessions? Okay.
Manuel, on the
Uh,
cube, he already loaded the data from yesterday. So do we need to delete it, or how do we test it?
what do you want to test? I just loaded the data back in there, so
No, from DSO to cube, I want to test it, but the cube already has the data from yesterday.
mhm. You load the data into the cube only if it is necessary to be loaded into the cube from the DSO, right? So why would you want to delete data from the cube? I want to keep that data, add the data from the DSO, and then summarize the data in the cube. So if you go into the contents, since the cube is summarized data, the request number is yeah, you have your data, and then since your request number is different, so you would have data still not being uh, actually summarized here at this level, but once you're looking at the report, since your request number won't be a part of your primary key, you can see that data is summarized. Also, if you want to go ahead and do a compression, you could go ahead and summarize the data as well in the info queue.
What is
I
what is
understand.
compression?
Compression is where you were suppressing the request number. So request number is something that is part of the primary key of the info queue. So what is happening is data that was loaded the last time around, you have the request number with 2. Data loaded today has the request number with 3. So since they all cannot be added, so it is since the primary key is different, they're not able to add the data. I understand the server is down. We're working on it. The server guy said he'll get it done by today, but let's hope and see that it is done, and you should be able to access. All right. So uh, I'll not push too much right now. So we will be looking at how to load data through a write optimized DSO. What is the major difference between a standard and write optimized DSO is what we'll be looking into. We'll also look into how do we bring a data store object and an info cube together by understanding multi-provider in the next session. I hope by then we will be able to access the server and we'll be able to practice. Just speak to the server guy and then I'll confirm that. All right. Uh, any other questions that you guys have?
Manual, I tried just a minute back with the server. Ravi has been promising since yesterday.
Yeah, it is not Ravi's. Ravi has been trying to get in touch with the server guy. He was not picking the phone, so he's calling me and the server guy as well. So not his mistake.
I
Server
mean,
guy.
because all these things, we have finished now almost 6 classes, and it's like learning horsing without being given a horse here.
Yeah,
Or you get up on it like that, then you do this.
I get it. I get it. So let's try to get this fixed, and then I'll let you know if you guys can access the server. And I'm lucky I have the other server. That's why we were able to actually even see some classes, or else we would have been down, not able to do sessions. But I'll take it a little slow because we want that server to be up and running.
The server you're working on, Emmanuel, is it accessible to everyone or just for you?
No, it's only for me. It's a different server.
Okay. Are we having anything more, for today, or are we done?
I think we'll hold it off today at this point. I'll try to get this server done, and then we'll be able to cover more tomorrow and write optimized DSO and multi-providers. Right?
Thank you, Emmanuel. Have a good day.
Right, sir. You have a good evening, all of you. Take care.
The organizer has ended the session, and this call will be disconnected.